Hey guys, I recently partook in the second Scrabble tournament of my career, and it was super fun. It was a 5-game early bird. Sadly, I wasn't available for the main event. It being only 5 games means I have less data to share with you guys, but there were some super eventful games I'd love to tell you about. For one, I played way less phonies than my last tournament, so I guess all the word studying I've been doing has been paying off. Last tournament, I played 1 1/3 phonies per game, and this one, I only played 0.8. One of my phonies was the invalid Mosey to start a game, confusing it with the valid Mosey. I don't know why, but I always thought this was spelled with a Z. I guess my opponent thought so too, since they didn't challenge, luckily for me. Another one I did was advise, incorrectly thinking it was a variant of advise, which in my defense, it is in the international lexicon. Probably my funniest phony was in a game where my opponent played the invalid tropist, and I failed to challenge it off. Later in the game, I hooked it with an S to make the equally invalid tropists. This is actually another case of words that are valid in the International Collins Dictionary, but not in the Merriam-Webster one we were using. Tropist wasn't the only phony I failed to spot. I also missed reparent and bings. I spent a good bit of time agonizing over whether Bing was a noun that could take an S-hook. Yet again, it is in Collins, but in the North American lexicon, it's just an interjection. There were also some valid words from my opponents that I incorrectly challenged, including that of niggle. I had definitely heard it before, but there was just a niggling doubt at the back of my mind about its validity. I think I was just so sad about my opponent blocking the spot where I was about to play that my brain just stopped working a little bit. I did also make some good plays though. These include bingos, like using this rack to make footing and using this rack to make wheeling. But let's look at some actual full games. In this game, I went first and played Finn, to which my opponent responded with hub. I then play him, and she responds with the invalid fooler. And I admit it, I was fooled. This play looks super believable and gives me access to the triple word score. Instead of challenging, I play weld for 47, and she responds with ped for 31. My rack is now EIORRST. See if you can find what I played. I had multiple possible bingos, including extending po to make posterior and hymns, as well as what I ended up doing, rioters. This opens up the board a lot and gives my opponent a chance for a triple-triple, so I actually should have played roister instead. My opponent exchanges 2, and I play tire to hopefully prevent some devastating plays on the top of the board. Sadly, my opponent has radiates for 60 points at the very bottom. She could have gotten 89 points by getting a double-double with Ariste, but that's pretty hard to notice. I got rid of my Q with cheese, and she responds with me. I then play Zen, she exchanges 5, I play gas to make za and cheese, she exchanges 2, I have an A and X, and I miss my opportunity to play axe for 31, instead playing tax for just 18. Had I played axe, I could have blocked my opponent's bingo of D paint, though she still would have had it in the 6th row. I'm afraid I wasn't as familiar with D paint as I was with its anagrams, patined, and of course, painted. So I challenged and lost my turn. She played fog, and I exchanged 3. She played cakey, and it looked really wrong to me without the E of the more common cakey. So I challenged and once again lost my turn. She took the opportunity to play thaw, setting up her S, but I have the first blank and respond with jabs. She uses her S to play sty, hooking D paints, that I now thankfully know not to challenge. I then play Racy, and she exchanges 2, and I look down in my rack and see EEINRU blank. See if you can find any of the 5 bingos I have through the R of Racy. They include unretire, re-injure, reinsure, and inquirer. But I end up going with the one I am most confident is a word, reuniter. My opponent responded with ova, to which I play ton to make nova. At this point, we are both very low on time, and she passes, missing the opportunity to make plays like V hooking nove and vug. I had done a poor job of keeping track of tiles, and I thought she didn't have the last V, but instead had the J. You know, the very J I played earlier in this game. So, I jump on the chance to block the powerful jug with oat, missing out on my best move of Lou hooking Oracy and O. While oat does also block vug, it also opens up a spot for my opponent to play van. Whoops. I have multiple moves here that can assure my victory, but desperately trying not to run out of time on my clock, I rush and play Oma. I once again didn't see Lou, and I also missed both variants of the Armenian currency Loma and Luma. Sadly, this is not a currency I covered in my video ranking some of the coolest money names in Scrabble, even though it shares its name with the cutest characters in the best game of all time, don't at me. Anyway, my opponent responded to my play of Oma with Doug, which I used to make Dole. My opponent plays Ren, and after I can't find my only play of Lun and pass, she outplays with Tie, getting 4 points from my tiles. We actually both went over on our clocks, so after we both have 10 points deducted from our scores, it is 402 to 363, my only win of the tournament. It was an exceedingly fun game, and I'm very proud of my win, but I admit I got very lucky with my tile draws, with very good bingo tiles, both blanks, and the J, Q, X, and Z. I still managed to nearly throw this game by challenging multiple of my opponent's valid words, but not her phony. And now for possibly the craziest game of Scrabble I have ever played. Yes, this is the one from the thumbnail. I went first, but had some disappointing tiles, so I exchanged 3. My opponent took the opportunity to dump some I's with Aritic. I overlapped with Bet, and he responded with Ropey. I'm far more used to the spelling of Ropey with an E, but I knew not to challenge this time. After Bet, my rack is AAEILNO, which has exactly one 7-letter word that can be made with it. Can you find it? It's Aeolian, meaning pertaining to the wind. I sat for a long time trying to find somewhere I could play it, and eventually played it here, overlapping to form the invalid word Abbey, which my opponent quickly saw and challenged. I had confused it with the real word abide. In fact, I didn't have any possible bingos this turn. I should have played here, giving me 15 points and leaving me good tiles for future bingos. He plays 2, making sure not to give me anywhere to play Aeolian, leaving me to play for 8 fewer points than I could have gotten the previous turn, but still setting up a good bingo lane for my L. He responds with U, hooking yaw and A. I play eel, setting up a hook for my F. This was definitely foolish, because if he has the other F, or an H, K, P, R, S, T, W, or blank, he can play there too. To my horror, he lays down H, I, N, and D. But to his horror, he realizes right after hitting the clock that he has laid them down wrong, spelling the invalid hidden that I quickly challenge off, freeing the space to play Fig. He responds with Ha, getting the H on the triple letter. At this point, my rack is AEIMNOR, which has 2 anagrams, both of which are playable here. I'll give you a chance to find them. They are romaine and moraine. I should have played romaine, hooking ewer, but I played moraine, hooking may, for 11 less points because I wasn't sure if ewer was a word. It is. My opponent responded by saying nice play and playing chi. He actually would have had an opportunity to score 11 more points with chi if I had played romaine, so my mistake didn't end up having too much impact. I respond with vum, and he then plays odd. I then play dual to give me a good spot for my j, but it gives him a good spot for his x to play zax. I'm just glad he didn't have another a. I play lute to hook chu, that he overlaps with earn to reach the triple word score first. I then play ride, and he responds with here and ha. I finally play my j with raj, and he responds with gan. I play yi, and he plays okay. My rack now is BDELORT. I'm running low on time and can't find a good move despite my good bingo tiles, and end up going for daw for only 3 points, fishing for a very specific play. I sadly, but unsurprisingly missed the 38-point brothered through here, which would have been my best move. He then plays elf, hooking emo. After daw, I draw exactly what I wanted, the blank, giving me this rack. There are 2 possible bingos here. Can you find one? I went with bolster, hooking to form all and use. Had I known ewer and the more obscure retableau, I could have reached the double word score and gotten 10 more points. He responds by extending von to coven, reaching the triple word score. I play in and he exchanges. At this point, I am winning 310 to 285, and there are 3 tiles left in the bag. But I only have 30 seconds left on my clock, and my rack is AGRTUVW. I miss my best play of VAW, and instead play Waver for 11 points. Sadly, he has the second blank, and he uses it to play Snoops for 32, putting him just behind me with 317 to 321. My rack is now GINRSTU, and I only have 10 seconds left on my clock. And the only math I have time to do now is to know that if I take that 10-point penalty for going over, I will lose the game. Desperate to shed tiles for when he goes out next turn, I play Sung, hooking Ains for 14 points. I completely missed my best move of extending bolster to bolstering for 24 points, as well as other winning moves like grist through the S of Snoops, or guitar through the A of Waver. After I play Sung, I quickly hit the clock, leaving me with only 2 seconds left from losing 10 points, and he finds his best move of Wavers. After collecting 6 points from the tiles left on my rack, the score is now 335 to 335, a tie. That only happens in 1 in 200 tournament games. It is crazy to me that it only happened on my 17th ever tournament Scrabble game, and against a player quite higher rated than me. But here comes the sad part. We both miscounted the score by exactly 1 point. I didn't know I was allowed to ask for a recount, and I thought the score we had was correct, since we checked it with each other just 1 turn before the end. I think part of why I didn't notice this 1 point discrepancy on the last move was actually because I challenged his play of Wavers. I was 99% sure it was valid, but since it was the last turn of the game, I didn't really have a turn to lose if I was wrong. Since I was too busy about challenging the play, I forgot to very thoroughly check the score as we had with every other move of the game. So, this amazingly fun and shockingly tied game went into the record as a 335 to 336 loss for me. I definitely learned a lot from this game, like that Abby is not a word and that recounts are allowed even if there isn't a discrepancy. But the biggest thing I learned is that I need to lock in. I took way too long on earlier turns and didn't give myself the time I needed for the end game. And the time pressure stressed me out so much, I forgot how to count. But for the most part, I'm very proud of how I did in this game, and it was definitely one of the most exciting games of Scrabble I have ever gotten to play. I definitely wish I had fully memorized my 3-letter words before going into this tournament, so I hadn't played Abby confusing it with a bye. If you want to learn the 3-letter words, I've actually got a series of videos where I use all 1,085 of them in a sentence. Well, not like one really big sentence, a bunch of little ones. You get the point. But my biggest takeaway from this tournament is pretty similar to that from my first tournament. Scrabble is super fun and the community is awesome. Everyone was super nice, especially after learning it was only my second ever tournament. I had an amazing time, and I plan on working on getting better, doing tons more tournaments, and making tons more videos. If you're at all interested in seeing that, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon and like and comment and Venmo me $100. Have a nice day. Wait. We haven't even looked at any graphs yet. Like for example, this one, showing I played 6 bingos during the tournament, while my opponents played 7 against me. Of course, that is including their 2 bingos that were actually phonies, but weren't challenged by me, that being Reparent and Tropist. When it comes to valid bingos, I actually played 1 more. In general, I actually played slightly less phonies than my opponents, despite their greater word knowledge. This chart shows I also played slightly more plays worth 40 points or more than my opponents. This is pretty similar to that of my last tournament. But if I was playing all these high-scoring plays, why'd I only win 1 of my games? I believe the answer in part is due to the turns I lost challenging my opponent's valid plays. I challenged 5 times in this 5-game tournament. One of those was on an opponent's outplay of waivers, just in case, but out of my 4 other challenges, only 1 was actually right. 3 times I lost my turn from challenging a valid word from my opponent. In addition, I let 4 of my opponent's phonies slide. We can see here they challenged off a quarter of my phonies, but I only got 20% of theirs. In addition, there's this chart. As I said about my last tournament, it is generally not a good idea for winning if you are regularly making moves that don't score you nothing. Now, let's look at the most revealing chart, my and my opponent's average score. On average, I was outscored by 64 points. If we compare that to my last tournament, it looks like I actually got worse. But there's a key bit of information I have yet to show you. The average rating of my opponents was a lot higher in this tournament. Doing this level against these opponents is something I'm quite proud of. Here, you can see the spread of each game, aka how much I won or lost by. That tiny blip in game 2 is the tie I recorded as a 1-point loss. That slightly larger blip is my 1 win of the tournament by the close margin of 29 points. Now, before you go, let me show you quite possibly the most important graph of them all, this one. Have a nice day.